Toward the end of the 2nd century in the church, there was a great persecution that had been going on for a while. And after Pope Fabian was martyred, there was no pope for 14 months. And the church was being governed by a group of priests and deacons, lay people, and very aged and good men and women. And finally, Cornelius was elected the pope. There were some who opposed his being made the pope and caused controversies in the church. And the controversies were basically over celebrating the sacrament of baptism and penance. And so there was a lot of discussion. Cyprian was a friend of Cornelius. Cyprian became a bishop and was working in northern Africa, and Cornelius was in Rome. But they were friends and consulted with one another and supported each other. The controversies that came up were brought about by a man, Novatius, who appointed himself as a pope. He was the first anti-pope. And he was spreading the word that the church had no power to forgive anybody who apostatized during the persecution if they denied their faith. And also, he went on to say that the church had no power to forgive the sins of adultery, fornication, murder, and some other ones. He was totally wrong. But this teaching spread among the people. And Cornelius and Cyprian were both agents in trying to set it all straight. We see the development of the understanding of baptism. Some denied that baptism was valid if someone who was a heretic performed it. That wasn't the thinking of the church. And some denied some decided that if a person did doubt their faith and deny their faith, that they could not receive communion again until they were on their deathbed. So there were all kinds of different ways of thinking going on, but Cornelius and Cyprian were strong elements in bringing about the truth. They believed that they had to, first of all, read the gospel. They had to do what Jesus would do. The Lord came to bring mercy and compassion. There's no sin that the Lord would not forgive. And so they brought about, and it was a development of the sacraments of penance and baptism. They were both martyred for their faith, and around the year 253 and 258, I think they were each martyred. And for speaking the truth, they opposed the next pope that came, who was Pope Stephen. They didn't like a lot of the things he was bringing in. But again, they worked very hard to bring about unity in the church. Cyprian writes that unity and peace was the desire of the Lord, and we see that in the gospel today. We have Jesus praying that we all may be one. He gave us his word, and we have to listen to his word. And that he's given the first pope the authority, and he alone has the authority to bring the bishops together and to govern matters of faith and morality. That was true then, and it is true now. We have seen that there's always been controversies in the church. There's been heresies and people who came up with their own ideas about the truth. And all those things, I think, is proof of the church being divine, because we've gone through some terrible controversies, and yet the church remains strong. So the feast of these two martyrs, we give thanks to God for the witness of their faith, for their persistence in teaching and preaching the truth, and for, like Cyprian, was so good to the poor and to those in need. So we may imitate them in our world today. And in our country today, where religious freedom is being threatened, it's a type of persecution of the church. And we need to pray to Jesus that the unity of the church may continue and make us strong. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.